Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So, I am coming to you with a very special edition of the No Days Off podcast. Here's the deal: I am actually in a hotel room right now on a business trip, and I apologize. My sound may not be as high quality as it typically is, but I thought today's message was important to share. It's on my mind, and the timing is such that it made it appropriate to share today. Here's the truth. I am not supposed to be on a business trip right now. I should actually be running through the town of Jerome in Arizona, up into Sedona, and ultimately into Flagstaff. This week, I was supposed to be doing a 125-mile run. I've been talking about training for this thing for the past, I don't know, 20 weeks or so. And, on some episodes and in the newsletter I send and just for, friends of mine, you probably heard me talking around it. Well, it's been a big part of my life. Supposed to be running it right now, like literally today. That I'm recording this. You're going to hear this tomorrow. I made a special edition of this of this podcast because it's just on my mind today. I'm supposed to be running it right now as I'm sitting here recording, and I canceled the 125-mile race. And frankly, I quit it. And that's not a small thing. I mean, I've built I think a really big part of my identity around doing hard things. I'm a big fan of doing hard things. I'm also a big fan of finishing what I start and pushing through things when it gets rather uncomfortable. So deciding not to run the 125 this week is not something that I take lightly. Here's what happened. A few weeks ago, actually, let me back up, probably 2 months ago, I started having these thoughts around this particular race, and I wasn't very excited around it. I was training and I was excited to train, but I got to thinking about the race itself, and I didn't have the same excitement that I had last year when I did a really big, I did a 100-miler last year. I didn't have the same objectives, the same goals. I didn't have the same fear, which was quite a driver for me last year. None of that stuff existed. And I decided to kick the can and said, hey, let's not think about this. I've got a 60-mile race coming up. Let's see how I feel after that 60-mile race. So just a few weeks ago, I was in Prescott, Arizona. I was running a race called the Whiskey Basin. It's about a 60-mile trek for me. And somewhere around like mile 35, mile 40, I had this moment. And it wasn't a low moment. Like I was actually doing really well. I felt great. It was not like a breaking point or anything of that nature. I was in good spirits. I just had this moment of clarity. I realized that I didn't want to do the 125 anymore. Like I was very clear. I don't want to go through a couple nights of not sleeping and beating my body up and all these things. I didn't have the motivation necessary to go out and do it. Now, this wasn't a decision I think I made on a bad day, not at all. Again, I'd been thinking about it for a while. If anything, I was probably more careful about this decision than most any I make. So it certainly was not impulsive. I just had been losing the fire for that 125 race, the one being literally run right now. I've been losing the fire for 6 weeks up to that point. Not like a big moment or anything, just kind of the slow sort of fade for me. And like I said, I told myself, hey, don't make this decision emotionally. Let's at least finish the 60-mile race. So give yourself some time. Because I didn't, I was a little concerned that maybe my fatigue just from training so much was confusing me a little bit, maybe jading some of my thoughts. So I did give it time and I let it sit and I kept training as if I was going to do the 125. But then out on that trail during the 60 miler, well into that race, the answer just kind of showed up for me. And it was just pretty simple and it was pretty obvious to me. I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't have the same fire. See, here was kind of my big aha. I think a few years ago, I would never have made that sort of call. Not because I was passionate about the race, like not because I felt fine. I wouldn't have made a call like that because I wouldn't want to be seen as someone who quits. I would have pushed through, the training and shown up on race day, and I would have gotten it done. I mean, candidly, I'm in better shape right now than I was a year ago when I was doing a big race. So physically, I was fine. I would have gotten it done. I would have hung that medal up on the wall. And if I'm being honest, a big part of that would have just been driven by ego, like not wanting people to think I gave up or not wanting to feel like I fell short in any way. And I think that, I don't know, maybe I've matured over the past few years. I think that's a very dangerous place to operate from because now you're not doing hard things for the right reasons. You're doing them to protect an identity. And for me, it was an identity maybe driven a little bit by ego. So the growth here for me isn't necessarily that I quit. I think the growth for me here is that I quit and actually felt at peace with it. And that's a new feeling for me. Even as I sit here today, knowing that a lot of individuals that I know from the ultra endurance world, and even individuals I've trained with, even though I know they're out there, I'm not really second guessing it. I mean, sure, there's a little bit of me saying, "Gosh, I wonder what it would be like to be out there right now," but I'm not really having this internal strife or battle. I don't feel as though there's a need to justify anything to anyone. I'm just kind of settled, and I'm kind of proud of myself because I haven't really ever behaved this way over the 47 years I've been on this planet. I think when something is aligned, when it actually matters to you, you feel pulled toward it. And when it's not, you feel like you're dragging it. And this was one when I look at it as objectively and as I possibly can, I was dragging, this one. I was, just struggling to get there. Now, I'm talking about a race, right? I'm talking about running. It's real life, it's personal, but there are things that matter more. To me, this isn't about a race. This sort of thing can show up anywhere and everywhere. There are things I think that people carry for months, sometimes even years, like a business idea that maybe they're not excited about anymore, or a commitment they've made that just no longer fits with their life and who they are. Maybe it's a goal. I think for a lot of people, it's a goal that they set a long time ago, um, but haven't really revisited whether that goal still makes sense. And they keep going, right, with that idea or that commitment or that goal. They keep going, and they keep going not because it matters, but because of maybe what it would mean to stop. Because the quitting might sometimes feel like failure. But I think that those things, and maybe I'm just realizing this now, those are two very different things, quitting and failure. Quitting because something no longer aligns is mature and maybe strategic. It's not the same as quitting because it's hard. See, I don't think I have to prove myself to anyone, or even more so to myself, that I do hard things. I have confidence around that. So quitting because something no longer aligns, I don't know, maybe it's just maturity that's been built over time, but it feels a lot better to me, at least. I think hard things, don't get me wrong, right? I think hard things, and I'm going to continue to do lots of hard things. Let me be clear. While I may not be into the ultra endurance stuff, at least at this moment, I'm not saying it's going away. I'm not saying I'm not still doing, crazy things that I like to do to push myself. I think hard things are really worth doing. I learn a ton from them. There's no question about that. But I think most importantly, they're worth doing when they're connected to who you're becoming and your overall goals and objectives. I don't think they're worth doing when they're just feeding your ego. I don't think they're worth doing when they're just proving something to other people. I certainly don't think they're doing when you've maybe mentally checked out. I mean, frankly, it could be dangerous in some scenarios. I guess my reality here is sometimes the right move isn't to just push through. I think sometimes the right move is to actually let go and move on to other things that matter more. So my question for the No Days Off Nation, is there anything that you're still doing right now that you're just no longer fired up about? Are there any things that you're doing right now that you're just no longer fired up about in terms of goals or commitments or challenges or whatever it may be? Maybe a follow up question to that: are you doing these things because they matter or because of what it would say about you if you stopped? I think that's a question to ponder and really be honest with your answer, because clarity here can probably save you a lot of time and energy and even some unnecessary effort. I know for me, it was not an easy decision, but it is one that I'm actually really proud of and I'm at peace with. And I'm certainly missing a little bit what it might be like to be out there, but uh, but I'm glad I made the call that I made, and I'm wishing everybody out in Sedona right now the best of luck. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.